Mike Tannenbaum, former Dolphins boss, former Jets GM, currently our NFL insider on Theoretically Speaking. Mike T pulling up on us on a Motion Monday. First off, Mike T, how did you consume the Game 7s from the NBA? You didn't have to watch it with your football mind turned on. You enjoyed it as a fan. What was it like soaking up some NBA action?
Yeah, great to be with you guys. I'll tell you, I thought it was fascinating. Both road teams won, and I was a big fan of the Nuggets, and you want to be dynastic. You can't give up a 20-point lead in Game 7 in the second half at home. I was shocked and give the Timberwolves a ton of credit. That's really, really hard to do. That
was incredible to see. When that lead got up to that high and you have an inexperienced T-Wolves team going up against the Nuggets on the road, I was floored that they were able to do it, but that speaks to the incredible nature of that T-Wolves team. Mike T joining us here on Theoretically Speaking. We're going to talk some football, and honestly, Mike T, I'm glad you're locked in on the NBA postseason. I have a question here for you because this NBA playoffs with Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Steph Curry out early, and we have the rising of these new stars this postseason, it kind of reminds me of the 2021 NFL playoffs where we had that magical divisional round, right? Brady and Rodgers go out. You had the 13-second game with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow makes it to the Super Bowl. It was kind of like an out with the old, in with the new. Do you feel that same parallel going on in the NBA right now?
Oh, absolutely. I think if we were starting a team today, guys, and you were looking for somebody 25 years or younger, Anthony Edwards would be on that short list of players. Doncic certainly would be on that short list of players. So, absolutely, I think we're seeing a changing of the guard. And, look, I'd be hard-pressed to think the Celtics won't get there, but I think the Timberwolves are going to be really hard to beat. If Anthony Edwards, shoots more consistently, I think he's an absolute superstar.
Look at that. See, get up. They're misusing your talents. We need Mike Tannenbaum NBA takes going forward here. Let them know I said that. Let's switch it to football a bit because we are here in South Florida. There's a lot of fans concerned about what the future of the Dolphins and specifically Tua Tagovailoa will be. We did hear he was at camp today. But what's your gut feeling with the Dolphins and Tua? Do you think he gets a contract before this NFL season starts, or do you think he plays under that fifth-year option?
I think they get something done. I think what's interesting about this deal is I think the average per year of $52 million, I think there's a number there that both sides can live with. I do think the guarantees are harder given his durability issues both at the NFL and college level. But to his credit, he played in 17 games a year ago, so that to me is going to be where more work has to be done to figure out what a reasonable guarantee is.
Mike Tannenbaum joining us here on Theoretically Speaking, talking some ball. And for the Dolphins, the weird part is they're in the AFC. They're also in the AFC East. Some really good football teams in there. With your football brains, do you feel like the Miami Dolphins are closer to winning a Super Bowl or closer to blowing this thing up? And I would say given them also paying Tua Tagovailoa this offseason, closer to winning a Super Bowl or closer to actually rebuilding?
I think the Super Bowl, they had the best receiver in the game in Tyreek Hill. And, if healthy, he could take games over all by himself. And those difference makers in our sport are hard to find. So, look, the AFC is loaded with, a healthy Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, Patrick Mahomes winning for 3 in a row, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence.
Man.
But, it's loaded. But because they have Tyreek Hill, I think they'll always have a chance.
And you also didn't even name C.J. Stroud. I just feel like there's a chance you can name six teams. That. But you do think they're closer to still winning a Super Bowl, even given the toughness of the competition.
I do. But Stroud absolutely deserves to be in that conversation. I mean, the AFC is just absolutely loaded.
You mentioned Tyreek Hill maybe being the best wide receiver in football. The other guy that people mentioned in that conversation, Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson. It was reported he was not spotted at Vikings camp to start OTAs. Now, I would ask you about his contract negotiations and situation. I'm guessing they'll get things worked out in Minneapolis. I'm more so curious, as a former GM, when do you find out about a player potentially holding out or missing out on camp, whether that be mandatory or voluntary? Do they speak to you ahead of time and give you a heads up? Or do players just no-show and you find out at the same time as the general public?
Most of the time the agent's going to give you a heads up just because at the end of the day, you got to work together. So no need to surprise you. So most of the time you get a sense that, hey, this player is upset about his contract. You're not going to see him. And context is really important. Like, look, it's a slow news time for the NFL, so we always make a big deal of it. But the reality is, like, it is a voluntary part of the off-season program, and we got to remember that as well.
Right, that makes sense. Now, with what you've been hearing around Justin Jefferson, it does feel like it's more likely he stays in Minneapolis. Is that another one where you think they just get a deal done instead of actually dealing him, which was kind of rumored around the NFL draft?
Yeah, that one's easy for me. Like, you get the deal done. You're not negotiating or paying the bill. You're just asking, what is it going to take, and get the deal done. He's a great difference-making player. Like, well, if you get a first-round pick, 2 first-round picks, you're hoping to replace him with somebody of his ability with that pick. So if you're fortunate to have a player like that, just get the deal done.
Mike Tannenbaum joining us here on Theoretically Speaking, as he always does on a Monday. And as we look forward, now that we're getting into camp and players are starting to report, not just the rookies, there's a lot of teams that feel like they have a lot of optimism because of what they've done this offseason. Is there one team that you think isn't getting talked about enough based on what they did this offseason? Maybe it's not catching the headlines, but it'll show up this fall when they hit the field?
The Steelers, I think they have a great defense, and they're going to get markedly improved quarterback play, either from Fields or Russell Wilson. They're going to run the ball. They really invest in their offensive line. I think they're going to be one of those teams where people are going to be like, well, they may not score 30 points like those other teams in the AFC, but absolutely nobody's going to want to play them.
Now, Mike T., you just mentioned the Steelers. We've talked about all the other teams. You still think the Dolphins are closer to winning a Super Bowl than rebuilding when the AFC is so stacked? The Steelers aren't even really a playoff team in most people's book.
Yeah, they made it somehow last year. I think Mike Tomlin's a Hall of Famer right before our very eyes. Again, I just give Miami a puncher's chance because of their speed and, again, led by, Tyreek Hill and his explosiveness.
I love the optimism you're pumping in the Dolphins fans' ears out here on Theoretically Speaking. I will side with that just so the fans will be on my side. On the way out here, I want one more NBA take. We have left in the NBA playoffs Boston, Indiana, Minneapolis, and Dallas. The Minnesota Timberwolves. For you specifically, who would you most be rooting for to be hoisting that Larry O'Brien trophy come June out of the 4 teams remaining in the NBA?
I'm rooting for the Celtics. I'm a Boston guy a long time ago, but I will say I think the Timberwolves, if Gobert does anything offensively like he did in the second half, I think Minnesota's going to be really hard to beat. And I think Minnesota against Boston in the finals, would love to see like a great offense against a great defense. I
love it. Mike T with the elite basketball takes and also touching on some optimism around the Miami Dolphins. Appreciate you, Mike T, and enjoy the rest of your Monday.
Okay, thanks so much, Theo.
That's my guy, Mike Tannenbaum, dropping some football knowledge and also letting you know he knows ball too. On the hardwood, Mike Tannenbaum's appearances here on Theoretically Speaking, always brought to you by Eisner Ampner. Mike Tannenbaum, again, being underutilized in Bristol. When you pull Mike Tannenbaum on your show, ask him some other questions. Maybe you'll find out he's a baseball savant as well.